Let's talk about potency and dosing and things like that. Is there any difference in your product compared to anything else on the industry out there of dosing?
Wow, there is. As a matter of fact, one of the big questions that comes up is the herb to fluid ratio. That's a big one, especially with long time herb users. What that means is that you have 1 unit of herb that's used with 1 unit of fluid in the end product, though the herb itself is not in there, the extracted medium. So you may have 1 pound of herb that's used with 1 pound of the fluid medium. That's called a 1-to-1 ratio. If they used 2 pounds of herbs to the 1 pound, that becomes a 2-to-1 ratio. That's kind of a floating standard out there right now. The problem is it doesn't tell me anything about the processing technology. We can have a company that 3 companies, A, B, C, that all claim 4-to-1 herb ratio. That means they've used 4 pounds of herb to 1 pound of fluid in the finished product. Company A took only 2 hours to do their product. Company B may take 2 days, 2 weeks. Company C, on the other hand, may take a month to 2 months. So you can see that the herb to fluid ratio now becomes irrelevant, because the processing standard for each of those 3 is different. So it's a poor standard upon which to base the quality of an herb. It really is. Even so, based on 3 criteria that we use as a mathematical construct, from what the competition recommends on their product labels, what we know is stated as used as far as their herb to fluid ratio, and then what we've gotten is clinical feedback from people using our products. We have actually been able to establish an herb to fluid ratio equivalency, and it's a very accurate equivalency. Currently, the TincTrack is a 5-to-1 herb to fluid ratio equivalency.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now when we're talking about the dosing, that's in the processing. Now when you go to what's in the bottle that the consumer uses, our products are so concentrated and so biologically viable that a very small amount does a very large amount in the body. So company A product may take a half teaspoon to get an effect. Company B may take a whole teaspoon. Ours may be, for an adult, a 1/4 teaspoon. For a child, just an 1/8 of a teaspoon.
And that makes a huge difference when it comes to cost, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if I got a 1-ounce bottle from one company that it takes a half teaspoon per dose, that bottle may last me, 2 months maybe. And if we go to Cedar Bear products and they're a 1/4, that means that stretches from 2 months down to, or I mean, go the other way, goes for 1 month, then goes to 2 months
Right.
from the other. So basically, if I'm paying a larger sum for your 1 ounce, I'm getting really more for my buck in the long run.
Absolutely.
In fact, we are in the process of encouraging the stores to start showing, like the supermarkets do, what a per dose cost is of the product, doing it on the basis of per dose, because in the stores, you go into the stores and it'll tell you what the per serving cost is, or the per ounce cost. They'll use a per ounce cost. For us, we can actually do a per dose cost.
And that makes sense, so that the consumer knows what they're really paying for.
Right. Too oftentimes they look at the total price and they don't look at the quality factors here. The fact that we are so highly standardized as to our manufacturing technology, the clinical inputs that we've had, and the fact that we have been able to establish a very solid, very workable dosing criteria. And right now, it's at to half of what our competition is for the same type product.
Now sometimes another company will say, well, my alcohol tincture is a 1/4 teaspoon dose, or a weaker glycerite processed product may be a 1/4 teaspoon for a dose, and ours is a 1/4 teaspoon for a dose. But if you're not getting the effectiveness, if you're not getting the results with those first 2, you're not getting the bang for your buck, or the results that you want for your health needs, or your child's health needs, or your cats or your dogs.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd like to say to the viewer of this is that we are clinically based products. These are not products that have just been created out of thin air. We take a formula based on clinical use on a 1-to-1 basis, because I'm also a clinical herbalist. So I test a lot of these formula concepts. And so when we get the feedback, we take the product and we put it together as a marker and batch, and we send it out to certain clinicians that we've worked with for years. They get back with us and they tell us what they've observed. One of the neat things was through our generational improvements, Generation 6, lower your dosage, we were told. Then we did Generation 7, lower your dosage again. We've had 2 dosage lowering events because as we've improved and enhanced our process, it's made the potency of the product much stronger because it's concentrating it. And the words here, the operating words here is, we maintain the synergy of the constituents and they remain in their ratio intact state. So maybe when it's in that synergy ratio intact state, a little bit does as much as those other products that claim to supersaturate their product, and they have to have a lot because they have no synergy. They've lost the ratio intact nature of the product as existed in the raw herb.
Now, I got a couple more questions for you before we leave, and this is probably one of the most important ones. Now, me first getting into herbs, when I got into them, one of the reasons why I didn't want to do liquid herbs, guess what? They were just nasty. Oh, they were hard to take. And you know what? I'm a big believer. If it doesn't taste somewhat decent, people won't stick with it. You know, I know when your health is important to you, it's almost you'll choke down anything, but you can only do that for so long. And all of a sudden you're going like, I just can't do it anymore. And so what about Cedar Bear Naturals?
What about children? Now
Yeah,
that's as
that
adults. Now children and pets and horses. Taste is everything. Taste is everything. Face it or not, it's everything.
If it tastes yucky, they won't
do it. And that's one of the hallmarks, the defining hallmarks of a tink track product is made by Cedar Bear Naturals. Joan, go for it.
Well, they do. They taste great. In fact, we get reports, have for years, of parents that say, my child loves the Cedar Bear product so much that they come up and say, Mommy, can I have my herbs? You know, they come running. Instead of hiding when it's nasty tasting, they come running. They go, oh, give me. My little granddaughter comes up, Grandma, can I have some herb water? Because her daily herbs are given to her and diluted in a cup of water. And they'll just open up their little mouths like little birdies for a dropper of the Cedar Bear products. And one of the nice things is that because it's liquid, it goes to work the second it touches the mouth and into the body. Children especially are very sensitive to when they don't need it anymore. When they start saying the taste changes for them. They're wanting to have it if they're done with needing to have it, like a cold remedy. There's just this body wisdom that kicks in, as opposed to when there are pills and capsules that goes to the stomach and then it has to be digested and the body has to figure out what to do with it. Oh, and children can't do pills anyway. But for adults and such, the liquid is just nature's way of getting it into us. It's much better for the body, for the health.
And another added point concerning taste. We got in our herbal use as society, those that use herbs went towards capsulated, dried herbs, bypassed taste altogether. Taste is a part of your body's reflex to get digestive juices going, to initiate certain immune responses in the body. You bypass taste, you have bypassed a major trigger. It's like you bypassed an important light switch, because our body's immune system, just like its digestive system, there are not just one light switch that has to be turned on. There are a sequence of switches that have to be turned on. And if you skip any one or group of those switches, you have incomplete digestion, or you'll have an incomplete immune response. Both for digestion and many immune responses, your taste is the first switch.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, I have a daughter that she cannot do pills, period. You know, we've tried, and she's a teenager, almost
Just
18.
can't swallow.
that gag reflex just gets her every time. And I have a tough gag reflex too, but I've forced myself to learn, over time. But isn't it neat to know that by placing a sweet, naturally sweetened taste on your tongue is computing that in your brain, telling you it's time to go to work, and you're taking in a great tasting product that's good for you. And so I think that that's what our consumers want to know.